The dialogue that's taking place this morning is what happened last night. You know, it's almost silly asking, well, who do you think won? Because I know you're going to say your candidate won, and I know you're going to say your candidate won. But did the viewer win last night?
I think the bigger question is who lost last night. And the biggest loser, in my opinion, was ABC News. I've never seen hosts be so engaged in a debate, actually carrying the water for another candidate. I mean, it was almost atrocious. But I think Donald Trump really rose to the occasion last night. What he did that I think most Americans really appreciated, it was 2016 all over again. He was authentically Donald Trump. And that is a new American value with this authenticity. Americans want authenticity. I think that's where Kamala Harris failed to deliver. She couldn't answer the most important question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The answer for most Americans, unless you're an illegal alien or you're a Mexican crime lord, you're not better off than you were 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting take. It is true. We do know Donald Trump and the authenticity he brings. The problem is we just don't like it. So when we talk about...
We like the policies, though.
No, we don't like those either. I know most women don't. And as a woman who came from a woman and has women children, we don't like none of that. And that's what's on the menu. But last night, I think what Kamala had the bigger burden. And I'm very pleased. We all know Kamala won if we were looking at the debate. And we talk about policies, which Mr. Sir, you talked about. We heard nothing from Donald Trump. He spent how many years barraging President Obama about health care and then had time in office. We're 11 years later since he ran the first time or however long it's been. Do you have, well, no, but I'll just keep it because if we can't do nothing better, we'll just keep that. So what he's saying is that was a good policy. We heard Kamala try and speak as much possible about her ideas. Her continuation with the Biden agenda, which has made our economy a stronger economy than China, killing our manufacturing. She's going to take that we've already done and move forward and continue to work for the middle class. So I'm very pleased with her. And I don't want to get into the many lies. There were some good moments last night.
Well, let's talk about some of the facts that were brought out last night. As we know, the viewers and the voters are telling us the economy is their top issue, one of the top, along with immigration. So I want to bring out some of the facts as we know them right now, based on some of the data. So we have mortgage rates. We mentioned the economy. Mortgage rates under Trump, 2.7%. Under Harris, 6.35%. Vast difference. Personal savings. We're talking about things that are affecting the middle class. Personal savings. It was up 264% under Donald Trump. Personal savings for most Americans now down 85%. Those are the numbers. Credit card delinquency. It was only at 1.4% under the Trump administration. Now it is up 54%. We look at weekly wages. That is why we see so many of the middle class voters wanting to know where am I going to get my money? Real weekly wages, they were up under the Trump administration, 7.7%, now down under the Biden-Harris administration, 3.9%. When you mention the voters are the ones possibly who were the losers last night, because voters still have these questions about the issues that are affecting their families.
They do have those questions, and unfortunately, they didn't get into that. And that's a very interesting, and I wish they had to spend more time on the economy.
Well, the way to do that, Jillian, is she can do a press conference. The problem is Kamala Harris has refused to sit down and do a press conference to answer some of these questions. But the reality is with Donald Trump has been in office for 4 years when he was president of the United States, and we saw he gave the strongest economy the world's ever seen. And you talked a lot about women voters. Women voters care about a lot of things, and one of them is the economy. What Kamala Harris didn't answer is why are grocery prices up 50% since she came into office?
She didn't answer that, but we have to say as a fact, nobody had an opportunity to get into policy. When I look at a debate, I think we have to change what we're expecting out of debate. If you want to know what Kamala Harris's policies are, you research, you go to her rallies, you go to her things. You don't use her.
You couldn't go to her website until last night.
You don't get to tell her that she has to do the shtick that Donald Trump does in front of the press. But if we talk about the economy, we know that under Biden's economy, we've had more jobs that have been created. We are the stronger economy more than China. We want to talk about the average spending. That's true. What did Kamala Harris do? She said, we're going to go after the reason why prices are going up. You can't talk to me, sir, about inflation if corporations are making record profits.
Here's the reality.
It doesn't work that way.
You got to let me get in here. The reality is Donald Trump asked the most pertinent question when he closed in the debate last night, which is, if all this is great, Kamala, that you care to do, why haven't you done it? You've been in office for 4 years. And she refused to answer the question. The reason she refused to answer that question is because she's the most radical person that's ever run for office. And she didn't. I would ask you one pertinent question, Delia. Did you vote for Kamala Harris in the primary? The answer is you did not.
That's
no one did. She was appointed and anointed by the Democrat establishment. And that's a problem.
Republicans cared so much how the Democrats run their
well, we care
primary.
about we do care about the country. We care about freedom.
We don't care about freedom because if you're in the state of Texas, which you are, I don't know, what state you came from. You guys have the same type of policy. Our Republican administrators in Austin have gerrymandered the map completely. They've made it so that you can't vote if you're young with an ID, but if you got a gun license, then that's good. So don't talk to me about we care about freedom, we care about that.
You absolutely
Kamala
can't vote in
Harris
the state of Texas. That is intellectually disingenuous.
No, that is not true. You cannot
can't vote in the state of Texas.
You cannot
have to have
vote in the state of Texas with a college ID. But you can vote with a gun license.
You have to vote in the state of Texas.
True.
You have to show some type of photo ID in the state of Texas, and that's a requirement. And that's a good thing.
I understand that.
Because every American I know
I'm an attorney. I understand that. My question is, why is a gun license acceptable, but a college ID is not? Well, I never said you don't have to
again, that wasn't an issue for the debate last night. The issue for the debate last night is the economy.
The issue was
Kamala Harris has failed the American people.
The issue was you were correcting me incorrectly. She has not. What did the Biden-Harris plan do? They did the Inflation Reduction Act. I personally want an administration that is going to try to build the economy.
And inflation went through the roof
after that.
after that.
Sir, am I allowed to talk or should I wait for you?
You may speak, please.
Okay, well,
please.
Thank you so much.
Please. But you got to be factual.
Oh, we're doing facts now.
Absolutely.
Yes, we
are
doing facts.
We actually have to do facts.
I actually do facts. And I just thought it was interesting coming from the Republican side, but that's okay. So what did the Biden-Harris administration do? They did the Inflation Reduction Act. Because when you want... Oh, I'm sorry. Do I not need to finish?
Inflation went through the roof.
Well, we do have the inflation numbers.
They did the Inflation Reduction Act so that they could go in and address building the economy through the middle class. Because we know that strong countries have a strong middle class. We do not see that. We also know that when Trump was in office, he wanted to build the economy through the upper class. He gave corporate tax breaks, which I'm not totally against. I have an economist background. During COVID time, you do need some corporate tax breaks, but he preferred to give more tax breaks to his buddies and people who look like him.
I got to jump in here. What Trump did, he gave us the strongest economy America's ever seen. So what he did, it worked. The Trump tax breaks actually worked. It benefited the economy for all classes of Americans. When you compare the economy of Trump to the economy of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, there is no comparison. Americans are hurting right now.
There really is
Kamala
not,
Harris failed last night to answer. She did not answer.
How many millions of people?
She did answer the question.
Excuse me, I need to interject here because we do have to go to the facts and the numbers. And the facts state that personal savings for people on average under the Trump administration was up 264% versus under the Biden-Harris administration, personal savings for American families, all classes, down 85%.
Personal savings is going to go down when you have high inflation. Did we ever get an opportunity
but that's an interesting point because Americans today are saying, well, if there was this act put into place, why am I suffering today? That's what Americans are asking at this point.
And we have to look at the act as well. That act was mostly a climate change act. So we have to acknowledge what was actually in the act.
Joe Biden himself has acknowledged that.
It was an act that said if you want to actually address the climate as well as get a middle-class savings, buy Tesla. If you want to help address the economy or address the climate
Americans can afford
by
Tesla.
Getting a... actually, they can. You should look at the price.
Not under Joe Biden, they can't.
They actually can.
And that's why Tesla sale numbers have been falling.
Yeah, but the problem is that Americans are struggling to buy eggs at a grocery store. And that's what they're scratching their heads about.
So my question
is
this.
Let them eat cats. That's Kamala Harris's answer. Let them eat cats.
No, that's your answer. But you know what she's thinking because I guess...
I know what she's done over the last 4 years.
How do you have a president who gave tax breaks not only to the corporations, but he also gave it to wealthy, but then they continue to have profits, but the prices continue to go up? Because you're feeding from top bottom. I think Reagan taught us that a long time ago. It does not trickle down. So what we have to do is get to the root of why our prices are gouging.
Why haven't we done it over 4 years? That's what the American people want to know.
Well,
Kamala Harris has been in office for 4 years, and we failed to address inflation. In fact, it's through the roof. 50% grocery price inflation increase. Americans can't afford Kamala Harris for another 4 years.
Inflation did go up.
You know what is standing out the most to me is that we are having more of a conversation about the economy and economics than they did last night. So that's what's frustrating me.
And
that's why ABC is the biggest loser.
To the viewers as well, and the viewers are reflecting their disappointment in ABC News and their disappointment.
So let's have a Merrit Street presidential debate.
Well,
let's do it.
We're all for it.
We're all
for it because we're about truth, fairness, and balance. And if one side's going to get fact-checked, so is the other, if you're willing to go there.
And we did not fact-check Kamala Harris last night when she brought up so many lies, including her stance on guns. I mean, this is a woman who has called for a mandatory buyback policy over and over again on national television. And last night, she claimed to be the biggest gun owner and gun supporter. The reality of American is...
What she said was last night, and what she has always said, is she is not going after your handguns.
She is. If she wants a mandatory buyback program,
now, that might have been what she had proposed in the past. And when you know better, you do better. But if we're talking about lies, are the immigrants really eating your cats and dogs? I think that kind of stood out during the night. Are Democrats killing babies? Because there's no such thing as a post-alive 9-month
Well, I need to stop you right there because
there
is record of that happening. 5 babies who were born were not saved, and that happened in Governor Walz's state. So
that's a fact.
We cannot state.
It broke my heart.
You got all the facts.
It broke my heart last night. It broke my heart last night as a father.
No, it's not about size. It's about numbers.
It's about numbers.
But when we talk about those babies, let's be clear. Are we talking about babies that already had conditions that were going to cause them to die when they were
those babies are still worth living? They're still
because
worth
what I think what you're saying is.
Yeah.
And that is where we are going to have a fundamental disagreement.
Look,
an ectopic pregnancy, a fetal anomaly where we know the baby's going to live 72 hours, they're worth living. Of course, because you're male, you will never be raped by your father and have to give birth to his child.
And thank God. And if I am, that person should be held accountable, not the child.
And I do believe that the woman who has that happen to, or the child who has that happen to, should have a say.
And there was a lot of discussion last night on this subject, and I think it was very clear where both candidates stood. And I think you, as a voter, you could at least feel alignment toward one candidate
stand on that?
or,
I don't know where that was.
another.
He was very clear. He's for exceptions for rape, incest. He was very clear on that. He's been very consistent on that. As a father, as you mentioned, it broke my heart that the only policy Kamala Harris has been forthright about is this idea of abortion up through kindergarten, practically, is what she's for. And what she has said over and over repeatedly.
Why are we not fact-checking
Just a second.
There's no fact check here. Because everything I've said is factual.
Having an abortion up until kindergarten as a father, you're still brokenhearted.
That's fundamentally the policy
out of all of the women who are having to bleed out in hospital rooms. Do you know those facts? Have you been up to date on all of the women who have to get on airplanes to go to a different location? Have you even read Roe v. Wade before you decide you know when life starts?
What I know is this, is that allowing women to have choices is a fundamentally important thing. But what's more important is that every life should matter. And the fact that we have a black woman running for president in the only policy position that she's been forthright on is how she wants to terminate black lives.
Why do you get to talk about black women when we're talking about black women dying the most in
We've got to keep moving.
We do.
Last night, we want to get to a very big issue that happened last night. Dr. Phil held a town hall meeting with independent voters last night. He asked them their thoughts.
Yeah, and it's important because we do want to hear what the voters are saying, and then we want to get your response to that as well. So this took place about what they didn't hear from the candidates. Let's take a listen to that, and then you two can respond to it.
For me, it's not about left or right. It's about protecting the country. It's about serving the country. And so it just, to me, you know, it's not enough talk about uniting as a country.
And that was the overwhelming theme that we heard from so many, especially on Today 9/11, is uniting our country, bringing back civil discourse to so many of these topics. So what do you guys, how do you respond to those?
It seems to me that's mostly what Vice President Kamala talked about. She said, you're dividing us more than and not showing us that we have more alike than we don't have alike. Her entire thing was, we want a new generation of leadership because we are tired of being angry at our neighbors. That seemed to me to be one of the prevailing things that she actually said. last night. We never got any of that in the 4 years he's been president or since then from the other side.
Delia, we do want a new generation of leadership because she is the current generation of leadership. We need to go back to the Trump policies that made America first, that put America first. And I think the most important last night that we haven't gotten into was really the international discussions and about the endless wars that Joe Biden, he's brought us to the brink, he and Kamala Harris, to the brink of World War III. We didn't have that when Donald Trump was president. We saw where we were respected around the world, and that has diminished under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
It is amazing
That's a fact.
that you actually... That's a fact.
This
That's
is
interesting. I wish I could.
It's a fact that we're supporting two wars, and that didn't happen.
This has been a spirited debate. We want to
Donald Trump was in
continue
office.
to offer the invitation for you to continue
to please come back because these conversations are so important from both of you.
So
both sides must be represented.
Yes.
Delia, people need to hear your voice. TW, people need to hear your voice. They need to hear that we can civilly agree to disagree. We're just here to prompt and ask the questions. We want the viewer at home to decide where they align.
And it's very important that our viewers are making decisions based on education and being given the full story, both sides, the facts, so they can.
Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? That's the answer. That's the question. And the answer is we're not.
Thank you both for being here, and we can't wait to have you back. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are those blank books?